If I tell you how I feel.
Hey, we gonna change the opening music to Lex
keep
singing.
You know what? In studios, they be having like they gotta have in the little booth or whatever. So if I had some real acoustics, we could really do that. Oh shit, I'm sorry.
I was like, dang.
Spazzing.
Y'all can't see she over here attacking me.
Muscle spasms. My bad. Good morning or good afternoon
or good evening
or happy Monday.
Or happy whatever day it
Carlie's. Taking Carlie's phrases today. My name's Alexia Clincy. I'm here with my friend Carlie Carpio. What's your middle name?
Ruth.
Oh, shit. That's kind of cool. Carlie Ruth Carpio.
Mm-hmm.
You can find her on LinkedIn, and you can hit her up if you need any holistic wellness services as well. Or if you need some meal prep, you can send her 500 and she'll ship everything to you. Just throwing that out there at the beginning. Also, I want to throw out at the beginning that we want you to screenshot the episodes and show us that you're listening. Usually we've been saying that at the end, but maybe y'all fell asleep on us halfway. Yeah. I don't even know. But I need y'all to be enthusiastic because I'm enthusiastic. I'm actually excited about the next few episodes as well. So I just want to throw that out there that if you shout us out, we will shout you out too.
And we have some dope stuff coming up. So we love the support and the love. We appreciate people who have been sharing and tweeting. Yeah.
As always.
As always.
So what are we talking about today, Carlie? Or do you have any intro? Sorry, I made up a whole bunch of stuff.
She did. It's
just
okay.
Now.
Alexia, what's your middle name?
Eldora.
I love that.
That's my granny's
Eldora
name.
the Explorer.
Yeah, my ex in college used to call me Dora the Explorer.
Is your granny's middle name? Mine is too.
Speak Spanish, huh?
Ruth
yeah.
Is my, yep.
That's my grandma's name.
Clearly we're the favorites.
I was just the first daughter, and I don't know. That's what happened.
You're the first or the only?
First and only. Still applies.
The first of her name.
Right. Nah, you're not going to Khaleesi me up. Ooh. But when them thrones come back, though,
Dog.
I'm finna be out here in the fur coat and a crown. And I do have my dragon eggs, too. They haven't hatched yet, but I will be ready.
Ready to
Just
go.
throwing you.
We'll throw a bonfire and then hatch them that way.
Yeah, actually, one of my friends, he's fixing his backyard up, and he has a little bonfire pit, and he has a projector. So we're already like, we about to be out there watching it every Sunday. So we'll see.
Yeah, no,
you might be
awesome.
invited.
Might, please. The first person. Wake up, good morning. But anyways, so today we are talking about knowing when to call it, knowing when to throw in the towel, knowing when to quit. In a society when it's always like hustle, 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 grind, 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 don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't ever quit. Sometimes quitting can be appropriate.
And we're going to talk about when we think that is appropriate or not appropriate. But like Carlie said, I feel like anytime you hear the word quit, I always hear it with a negative connotation, which, for a lot of times it can be. But we just always hear like, don't quit and quitters never win and all of those things. But a lot of times the smartest decision is to recognize when something's not working out and when you need to pivot or switch direction, especially with, I remember a story with a guy who's known on social media for being like, I don't know what they really call it, like a dating consultant or like, I don't think that's what he tries to be, but he always was giving like advice. You know how people do. Yeah. So he was known for like the type of advice and stuff he was giving, and he got engaged and everything. And then next thing you know, they had broken off the engagement and people were kind of attacking him like, oh, you're supposed to be the relationship guru and this and that. And I thought it was funny. I was laughing. But then later I thought about it and I was like, you know what? Like one of the most important things and one of the hardest things in relationships that people literally never do is knowing when to call it and knowing when it's like, you know what? This ain't it. And so at the end of the day, I was like, nah, that's legit. Like, as a person who talks about relationships, for you to see what's going on or whatever happened, I don't know what happened, but the fact that you cut it off or that it ended does not necessarily a bad thing. Like that's probably one of the best decisions he made as far as not putting his life down a whole different direction. So like when you think about it, I was like, well, that's actually an important part about relationships, knowing when to quit as well. So we're going to talk about it from business standpoint, life, relationships, all of that.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, the hardest. And we'll talk about some of the reasons why, like, we either haven't quit or have and different things that have happened. So what does quitting mean to you?
If somebody says quit, the word quit.
Yep.
I think that means stopping your efforts towards that particular goal or towards whatever that action is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty simple, but just not moving forward, deciding that you're not going to move forward with something. What about you? Would you add something to that?
All I can hear is the cut it, that song. It's like, yeah, stopping putting effort or changing focus. Like it's just done, like closing a door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, closing the door on it.
Yeah. And what do you think it means in our culture?
Giving up. I think this country, part of its narrative is, that you can do it, you can make it, you can create the life you want.
That's a whole other episode.
Don't give up and all that. Having the stamina and the perseverance to keep going. Like, I think we hear all of those things. And so to quit something is like, you're weak, you gave up, you didn't stop trying, you're not trying enough. I feel like those are what I think about first when you think about it in like our cultural aspects of quitting.
Yeah, no, I'm with that. And it's like always a measure of you if something didn't work out. Like, oh, you just quit. You just gave up before the finish line.
Maybe it's attached more to our ego. And I guess I can't say more or less because, well, I'm very familiar with some other cultures, but just in general, I guess, I would say part of it does kind of connect to our egos. And, it's like you couldn't do it or you didn't do it or I failed. So it kind of goes along with that too.
Yep. So would you consider yourself a quitter?
No.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Because even when we talk about stories, like I have a couple of stories about things that I've quit or whatever, but I think if you say, are you a quitter, that's automatically too thinking about it in that certain connotation to where you gave up. And I wouldn't say it like that. I think I've made some very logical and educated decisions to be like, this isn't it. And to do something different. For the most part, I'm sure on a lower scale, there's little things that maybe I quit doing or something. But, when it matters, I'm not just going to give up because something just got a little hard.
Yeah, no, that's the same. I think also, like you said, when you realize, like you made an educated decision, like if I tune into myself and I'm like, nah, this isn't really where I need to be. So especially in making sure it's in alignment with what I'm doing and my goals, but also if it's a situation and I feel like I really have done all that I can, like in a situation.
It's always weird to me when people use that term too. But we don't have to get into that.
Yeah, no, but that was more so like thinking about relationship-wise and things like that. But no, definitely not a quitter. And I feel like it is societally like perseverance, like it's such a badge of honor. Like, oh, I've been through so much and I persevered and I made it on the mountaintop and you just keep going. And it's such this like aesthetic that people aim for. And it really takes some self-awareness, like we always say, some introspection to figure out if you're doing something because you don't want to be deemed a quitter and don't want to look like a loser for quote unquote failing, or if you're doing something because it's an alignment and you want to and you love it.
Right. I like some of the terms you just used as far as alignment and talking about struggle, because I think we've mentioned it before. I know I've talked about it before in different places, but I don't think that we should wear struggle as such a badge of honor and like as such a value. So I think that a lot of times, because in our communities, we come from a place where we do have to do more to get to a certain level or to get to certain places or to get resources that we need, et cetera, that we glorify this super, super struggle. And yet I've found when I look back, the things that have worked out the best for me are things that worked out more easily. Like, you don't have to always go against the grain with something that doesn't necessarily signify that this is some great thing on the other side just because it's so hard to do or so hard to get to. Sometimes that means it's not in alignment and that you need to switch over, pivot, or figure out what is more in alignment, because things shouldn't be so hard. At the end of the day, like, things shouldn't be so hard. And when I say hard, I don't mean it like, you don't have to do anything. Like, of course, you're going to have to put in efforts and be consistent and do what you need to do. But when you be like pushing, and something's just not working, then that's just kind of wasted efforts at that point.
It's like if you're trying to force it.
Yeah.
Like there's a difference between working hard and forcing something. And if you force something, like something's going to break at some point, and you don't want it to be you. And I think that's part of the lesson of growing up and looking at our own ego and all these things we learn from society and realizing like it's not about trauma porn. Like on social media, I feel like there's a lot of trauma porn, especially on Facebook, Lord.
And because everybody's going through the most. Like, and I think that's one thing that you learn from social too, is you're like, anything you think you've gone through that was some like, oh man, crazy big thing. Like a lot of people have gone through that same thing and are going through that same thing. And so to that, you know, it's cool when people share certain stories, but overall it's also like, dang, y'all like really going through it. Like it's the most.
And I'm not saying that to diminish your trauma, because trauma is very real and it can be quote unquote small to somebody else, but earth shattering to you. But realizing that that is not where your worth is and not where your value is, and not like necessarily wearing that as a badge of honor, like we kind of talked about.
So if in our culture quitting has more of a negative connotation, then why would people quit? Why do we quit?
Man, for a lot of different reasons. I feel like some people quit when things get hard. Like they just don't want to struggle, or they don't want to struggle, or they don't.
You don't have the mental fortitude to continue.
Yeah, or to like, continue. I'm done, or because they're scared. They're fearful of failure or fearful of success, and it just depends on who you are, and what the situation is. People quit because things aren't in alignment, or because you change and you grow through something and you realize like either the job or the relationship or the place you're living, like it doesn't suit you anymore. And it is a-okay to change anything in your life at any time if you're realizing that it's not in alignment with your goals, your purpose, or who you are as a person. It's always okay to change and quit. And people be like, oh, but you've been working at that job for 20 years. Exactly. I've been here for 20 years and it stopped serving my soul. Like, so I want to do something else.
I think one of the biggest things is, well, I think everything narrows down or like comes down to fear, period. Like when we talk about most things that have a negative connotation.
Yep.
But for me, I would say that people quit usually because they're afraid of having to change or do things differently to make a thing work. And, you know, you want to stay where you are. You want to be comfortable. And so you're like, no, I'm just not going to do that. Instead of having to like reframe and do things differently or step out of your comfort zone or be more vulnerable or take a risk or, you know, whatever that is. I think they decide that I'd rather just not do that.
Yeah.
So that's what I see the most. When can quitting be a bad thing?
Quitting can be a bad thing if it's, so we're talking about being fearful. Like if you're fearful for success or for failure, you're like scared to do something because you think that I might fail, and so you quit. Like I think that can be a bad thing. Like if you wanted to, let's say you had a job, but you're really passionate about painting and you're good at it. And so you were going to start a side business, but you're like, oh, that's dumb and I don't want to fail, or like, so you just quit doing it. Or like, that's a very baseline example, but thinking of things like that, like when you're scared of, or like going to school, like if maybe you graduated high school and didn't go to college and then you were taking classes and you're like, oh, I don't think I can do this. And you just quit instead of like getting a tutor or doing things, like you just quit because you're like, oh, I don't even want to do it anymore. Like I think in those instances, quitting can be a bad thing. Like if you haven't seen something through or tried, like for the school example, if you haven't tried with a tutor or tried a different major or tried a different class or maybe not even school, but like a certification program.
So quitting is bad if you haven't tried to exhaust your resources or tried, you know, different ways of doing something.
Exactly, like different ways of
or even try it all. Sometimes I think people who tend to quit in the negative kind of way that we're, I guess, talking about right now, it's almost like it's quitting before you really even start too.
Exactly.
Because when you start, that's when you kind of get juiced up to work through it, even if it's difficult. So that's actually kind of interesting too.
Real quick, sorry. As a trainer, like I also like people quit when they don't see results, but things don't happen overnight. And as a trainer, trust me, I've been working out for a long time. It takes a while to see results, and some things might be easier. Like your legs might be on point, but your arms might be struggling. But like in those instances, like that's something you can control, and you're quitting.
That's a good example for sure. I think quitting is a bad thing when you feel like you know yourself and you know what you care about and you know what you want, and you let outside forces persuade you to not go that direction maybe. So maybe if your friends are like, man, school's dumb. Like, why are you going, trying to go to Yale or whatever, and you listen to that, or you don't. I think if you don't do things that you want to do, or if you stop, so like with the painting, maybe like if you just stop completely or something like that, then I think that's when it's bad, because it's almost like you're taking something away from yourself that you enjoy or that you're good at or that you had the opportunity to do something with.
Yeah, so when you're letting outside anything, if it's society, if it's your fears about what people might think, like if you're letting that stop you from doing what nourishes your soul, like that is definitely a bad instance to quit.
But what about if you're at a job that's like terrible and you have a family but you quit? Like, is that still bad?
I mean, if it's easy, because I'm like, in my head, I was like, deuces, but then you said I have a family. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, you have a family, you have rent, you have, you're living kind of check to check. Like most people are kind of like a couple checks away from being out on these streets.
That's actually the biggest cause of poverty is people think it's mental illness or drugs and things like that. It's actually because most of the population lives check to check, and then an emergency happens, whether it's health or car wreck or something, and then you're homeless. And that really is the biggest thing that
that's why I stay in the house, because when I go out, I get hurt. And my insurance is not up to par right now. But that's another story.
But you have to do what you have to do. So if that means, like, if I did quit that job, I would have a plan of action.
So still being responsible.
Yeah, still being responsible, especially if I got kids and a husband, and for whatever reason, we're both struggling. And yeah, I would definitely make sure to handle my responsibilities. But if something is terrible and toxic for you, it's never smart to stay in the situation. And you can tell yourself any excuse you want. I have bills. But if you're working at a job, like, you can apply to other jobs on the side. When you get home at night, you can go wait tables and stock overnight or do whatever you need to do to handle your business in a way that's not toxic to your soul. Like, there are other options.
Yeah, I remember when we had Daria DeLolo on, and she was like, "Nah, I quit." And then she was like, "Nah, maybe not." But then she started seeing more signs, and it's like, all right, like, I'm just gonna do it. So you still pay attention to how you feel, and you pay attention to what you're responsible for and your security. But sometimes, man, I feel like like when your mind is just really pointing you towards something or away from something, you're, instead of having all the inner dialogue, like, what you need to do.
And that's even with Daria, when she like was crying because she was like, I felt like I missed my opportunity because I knew. And she said she knew. And like, that's how when, so Lex, like, we come up with topic ideas, and this was one of hers. And in my head, I was like, just because I know, like, I know when it's time to quit because I know. And it's hard to sometimes articulate things that are inner and spiritual and just the connection with yourself. But I feel like at your heart, like, deepest of hearts, like, if you take a moment with yourself, you really know when it's time to give it up or to pivot or to do whatever, know.
And you're either trying to convince yourself of something most of the time, or you need to get in line with your thoughts about, like, what are you really afraid of, or your comfort or whatever too. But quitting can be a good thing. Quitting can be a good thing when it's, like Carlie said, some kind of a toxic environment. If it's with a person or a friend who is bringing you down or makes you question yourself, especially with like relationship stuff like that. Quitting can be, good? Quitting can be good when you're making space to focus on things that you just care about more. So I think it can be a good thing too.
Oh, for sure.
Do you have any other examples
of when it's a good thing? Like in general or like personal?
Just in general.
Oh, quitting habits that are not good for you, like that are bad for your body, like smoking cigarettes. I love y'all, but it's time to figure out something else because there's just enough data. Yeah, I mean, my mom smokes, and I've been talking noise to her since I could talk probably about smoking because it's terrible. If you're eating terrible food every day, it's time to change it up and to take care of yourself.
That's good. So I'm glad you bring up like actual habits in your day to day, because that's the biggest things that we're like just in auto with, and you just really like once you start changing things, quitting certain things for your diet or your health, that is important.
And it's not easy, and it's like, this is not saying that quitting is easy by any means, but it's like there are some resources. And quitting might be hard, and there might be withdrawals, or there might be struggles, but the benefits far outweigh not quitting.
Do you have any examples of a time that you quit and it worked out? Like it was good that you had quit.
Oh, yes, Lord. I actually wouldn't be in Los Angeles when I quit my job because I wasn't happy.
Oh, yeah, that's the biggest one.
Oh, my God. It was such a life moment because like I went to school for it. I got a job that people would like love. It's a great company, like quote unquote, great work environment. I was on this billion, like I said, with a B dollar project, which is such a great opportunity, especially so young in my career. I got a promotion early. Like, you know, I was on track for leadership. Like it was, but I was so direly unhappy with myself. And when I was talking to people about going to school, everybody was in my ear. Well, how are you going to pay for that? Do you have a family that has money? Like, and I'm just like, first of all, if you're not helping me pay for it, then get out of my pockets. But second of all, like people started projecting their fears on me and their limited mindset about what's possible, like their limits on me. And I realized like I would come home and start questioning myself, like, man, can I do this? Like, I don't have, like, my parents can't help me. Like, with money, I help them pay bills. Like, maybe I shouldn't move so far away. Like, I don't, like, I just, it made me question myself. But, boy, I would go back and quit even faster.
So, but your story is similar to mine, but way different because I wouldn't consider it. It didn't even feel like quitting when I left working for me because yours is more so like, oh, man, you had all these things in store, so there's maybe more factors. For me, I was only working while I was figuring out what my next move was. And so as soon as I was like, yeah, all right, I'm ready to do that now, it wasn't like hard. It wasn't a thing as far as quitting.
What I will say is it also made it easier because I knew I was going to school. Like I had wanted to quit before, but when I got my acceptance, I was like really out. It can be a lot harder to make those decisions and to quit if you don't have something lined up, right? Like if you can't see, like that's walking in complete faith and that's a different thing. But any toxic situation or something that doesn't fit you, like it's
Have you ever had any habits that you quit? Or like anything that you really stopped? Like, do you want to talk about crack or? Joking.
Completely joking. Good.
We'll save that for another episode when you're ready. When you're ready.
Please.
When you're ready, Carlie.
Child, please.
It's calling you.
Y'all come get your girl. Come get her, because I'm about to bruise her other leg.
With her pipe.
I hate you.
Oh, wait.
What?
Okay, out of here.
Yeah, you're completely out of here. No, you asked me about my habits.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
I thought you were like, no.
She came for me and then she gonna talk.
I know, came and then left real quick.
But we talked about social media stalking.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one that I definitely was like, oh, this is terrible. And then also working on negative self-talk. Like, I don't know if that's something you can just cold turkey quit, because if y'all know how to do that, let me know. But that's something I'm actively working on stopping. Yeah. Like I catch myself when I start to like negative self-talk or start to doubt myself. I'm like, skirt, and then kind of pivot. So those are two big ones for me.
That's good. And I asked about habits because when I think about times that I quit, I'm thinking about things that were hard, like, because that's why I wouldn't really say like my work story, but things that were either it was a difficult thing or hard and it worked out. And so for me, all I could think about really was stuff like habit type stuff, like health wise, I would do like a 21-day detox, like all raw fruits and vegetables. Or like when I do times where I like cut sugar and stuff like that, it's like really, really hard, but it's like it feels so good.
What's the motivation behind that? Like whenever you do it?
Really it's just giving my body a break. So I'm giving my digestive system a break from like having to work too hard, like to process and break down like a lot of meats and a lot of heavy foods. And kind of just like a refresh, like just detox for a little bit just by eating just straight up vegetables.
That's a good one. I did the raw detox after I went to Tony Robbins last year, and I didn't realize how hard that would be to only eat like raw fruits and vegetables and things.
Because you have to really have it like planned out, like what you're trying to do. Because if you get caught being hungry, it's like, then
you just settle. I also stopped dairy before because I just wanted to see, like, I did a diet, like a clean house, where I like cut different things out of my diet just to see how they affect my body, because we've been eating for a certain way our whole lives. If you never take something out and then add it back, you really never know how it affects you. And so you think, oh, I have acid reflux, or oh man, my stomach just be messed up after dinner, but you never figure out what that thing is.
Yeah, that is a thing where you just slightly take out bit by bit and then introduce it back slightly so you can see like what's really affecting your body.
I see people do a lot of social media fasts too, like just quitting social media.
You have to from time to time. But yeah, as far as like things I've quit and it worked out, there's also things I've kind of like work stuff where I'm like, I'm done working, or I don't want to finish this right now. And then it always happens that, oh, we didn't actually have the meeting the next day or something like that. But I don't know if that's really like for that right there. But I do have a time, because we want to talk about times we've quit and you regretted it. So I do have a couple of those.
Okay.
One of mine would be when I was trying to be in the foreign service. So when I went to grad school, it was with that in mind to do government work. Wow, I don't know what she just whispered to the camera,
She's
but
a spy.
Yeah,
if I
I
come up
was.
missing, y'all know what happened.
And then I was gonna work in foreign service, and I remember taking the exam, and I passed the exam. And then next they call you to come do like an oral thing where you have to come and do like team stuff with people who passed and like speak and some other stuff. And I was like, nah, I think I convinced myself, because now even when I tell the story for real, I always am like, yeah, I didn't really want to do it anymore, so I didn't do that part. But I think I convinced myself at that time. I was like, I'm scared to like do that or like go and really try to do it, because this is right after I started my business too. So I was like, I think I'll just keep going with what I'm doing here. I'm not really gonna keep going and see what happens with that. But then now sometimes that is something. That's one of the only things I kind of regret. Like, man, I really was into like the international scene and economics and politics at that time. And every once in a while I still think like when this switches up, what's going on in government now, I do think sometimes like, man, I would want to go back and like go for it again, or like try to do it and see what happens.
No, that's a really good one. And we're really good at convincing ourselves, like talking ourselves out of things. And so it's always taking that extra moment. And sometimes like it's just not meant to happen, and it's only in hindsight that we realize that it was that type of thing.
Yeah, it's like, it's not that I feel like I'm super missing anything. I'm just like, I don't know. I wonder how life would have been, because I think part of it too at that time was with the type of work that I was going into, I would have definitely be like international and be moving around a lot. And I think I was kind of finishing a relationship or in one, I don't remember, but like I kind of just was like, yeah, I don't really want to do all that. And I kind of talked myself out of it. And I wish I had at least seen what happened if I kept going.
Yeah. No, that's real. I don't have a lot of instances. Like I've really been racking my brain trying to find some where I quit and regretted it. Because I don't really have a lot of regrets. But the first two, you're going to be like, really, Carlie? But really, I used to play soccer when I was little, and I quit because I got tired of people kicking me in my shins. For real. Like I played for a couple years, and then I was just like, okay, Mom, I'm done. Like I'm tired of these people kicking me. And I feel like I'd been really good at soccer. Also softball. The day I went out for softball in middle school, a girl got hit in the face with a pop fly. So the ball had like hit the ground and was rolling. She bent over to pick it up, and it broke her nose. The day at practice that I went out for softball, and I was like, oh, hell no. Like I'm gonna stick to volleyball. I've been hit in the face with a basketball. I'm good. Like
that too, though, because I what did I used to do? Oh, like with instruments. Like I used to play so many instruments, and I quit all of that. And now I'm like, dang, I wish like I have my little keyboard under my bed for like trying to make beats and stuff. And now I'm like I wish. So I think that's the things that I would do. Like if I have the income to like just kind of be hobby focused and like do what I want to do, like I'd be like, yo, I'm trying to go back and to dance. I want to go back to piano. I want to go back to guitar, all these things.
All those things.
And that's what I would be doing all day.
The one that is big that I really like had to tune in where, and I was like, damn. In college, I was doing engineering, but I always was really interested by the body. Like I nerd out about the body and kinesiology and things. And I thought about being a kinesiology major and doing physical therapy. And like I took a couple classes, but I quit because engineering was the smarter thing to do. Like it was more money, it was cool, but I only realized that now. Yeah. But back then I was like, no, Carlie, you're not coming to school for this, but look at what I do now with my life. Right, and it's like, but
that's interesting to me, because I'm trying to think about my life. I don't think I've always been sure of what I wanted to do and what I cared about. And I've never even thought to try to switch because of anything else like that, like money or anything like that. At the same time, I ended up not super doing exactly what those things were, but like along my path, it didn't matter. Like I didn't know what I was going to do at first with the international communications or international studies and all that. But I knew I wanted to do some kind of government work or diplomacy or whatever. And so I just did it what I liked.
And what's crazy is, like, I mean, I liked what I was doing. Engineering challenged me, but my heart, like, what was in engineering, but more so, like, with the body, like, that's the stuff I naturally, like, get more excited about. But I just had this mentality of lack, like, you know, not, like, coming from where we come from, like in the community or not having a lot of money, like I needed something secure and stable. And I saw the path and I knew I could do it. It was tough, but that it was something I could do. And so I took the safe route, I guess.
I don't even think I ever looked far enough to even think about that, like and, what that meant.
And it's crazy for me to, like, in hindsight, look back and know that that's where that was coming from. Like I wanted to be able to take care of my family and do those things and wanted to be secure and have this thing. And now I'm like, but I mean, I wouldn't be where I am if that didn't happen. But I'm like, also, like, I could have been, like, where could I have been had I did that?
Right. What about a time that you didn't quit, but you should have?
Is this the part where we can talk about relationships or no?
A lot of times this is like the relationships with people because sometimes it's so hard just to walk away from something or back away from it.
I have two semi-quick examples. So actually, bless you. Lord, light it up. Actually, all three of my major relationships, I should have quit a lot sooner.
Dang.
I know. I mean, y'all are great, but no, I don't even think they listen to the podcast. But if y'all did,
right.
Y'all cool. We're cool, but nah. Because all three of them. The first one just wasn't a healthy relationship. But we were also in like high school, so yeah. The second one in college, like, he was a great guy, but like I was still trying to figure myself out, and I knew he wasn't the one. But I still dated him for like a little while after I knew he wasn't the one, and finally I had to tell him, like, look, you're a great person, but just not my person, and I want you to be happy, and that's not you. No. And then the last one was like an off and on situationship, and I like was convincing myself that it was like an okay situation and I was okay with this. And like Kiara said, like, I want to be like, I was trying to be the cool girl, like, no, just letting it flow and all these things. And I wasn't happy and I wasn't taking care of myself. And then now I look back and I'm kind of angry, like, for not leaving that situation sooner. Yeah.
I have one similar to your last one too. And in my situation, I feel like it's ego and that you can't fail, or like this should be working because I'm putting this efforts in or whatever it is. But a lot of times it's us. I take responsibility for those things because when I look back, I'm like, yeah, I saw some red flags that I should have been like, I'm good, like way early, you know?
Yeah.
And then you just see them turn into more and more, and now you're upset. Now I've been in it so long, so let me try to figure it out.
Diminishing returns.
And you shouldn't be trying to figure anything out. It's just, is this for you or is it not? And so when it comes to quitting relationships, I'm sure a lot of people have that same thing where it's like, you knew before, you should have been like, nah. But then the longer you stay in it gets harder and harder because now you don't want to feel like, oh, I'm the one who's like, doing wrong or being disloyal or want to leave or whatever it is. Or you just don't want it to end because you feel like you can fix it or something like that. But quite frankly, that's a good sign that there's a lot of internal work that you need to do. So like after my last relationship, that's all I focused on was like myself, knowing myself. And now it's much easier with anybody, like when it comes to dating or even seeing that person again or whatever. It's regular now. It's not like I have a wall of, let me see what I need to do to make something happen. Yeah. It's just, I'm me, I'm looking rough, like, what's up? Like, I don't care. Oh, you want to talk? I actually got something to do right now. Whereas before, it's like you're trying to, I'll, run.
Rearrange. I'm not busy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, what you need to do, what you want to do. Like, I'm just not that person anymore. And so I needed that time and that space to really figure that out. And so now I can come into stuff much more healthier. I can easily just be like, yeah, I'm good on this. So when it comes to relationships, that's when it's time to focus on you, when you kind of feel like you're stuck in something like that for sure.
Exactly. And I like all of that growth, like in A Return to Live, it talks about how in romantic relationships or situations in particular, our neuroses come out more clearly. So if you always are trying to save somebody or trying to take care of somebody or trying to make something work, and I think there's like this mix of, because I can only talk about being a woman, but of like this ride or die, like being loyal and being a down chick and like that badge of honor, that struggle. Like how many times have y'all seen on Instagram, man, you know, I put her through hell and back, but we still here and she held me down and that's why she the one. What?
I told my ex, like, yo, if we ever get back together,
Don't you ever
happen, like, please don't do it. Please, I want you to say you admire me because I was strong enough to like walk away and not deal with you or whatever. Like, say that shit.
Or to grow in myself.
Don't talk about how I was still sitting there and I was flying to you and buying tickets. But please don't tell everybody that, even though I just did, because that is real. But like, please don't tell everybody that.
I mean, it is real. But like all the self-growth I've had from those relationships and those situationships, like, it's so worth it. Like, I realize now why I had to stay in it, because I had to learn the lesson. And that's something that happens in life. If something continuously keeps showing up for you, it's because you haven't learned the lesson. And so if you're like, why does this always happen to me?
That's the coolest thing ever in life. Yeah. Now, man, I'm so much more aware. Like, I can literally think about my first instinct of what I'm going to say to something or do and be like, nah, do the opposite. Do it different. Like my friend who's in town today. And I was like, oh, maybe we shouldn't podcast today so I can hang out with them. Then I was like, nah, do something different. Like, I'm busy 10 to 2. Like, we're doing something. So if I see you, I see you. If I don't, I don't. And it's just different that way. And you're taking care of yourself first. So it's not about anybody but you. Like, it's my life. So
exactly. I think that's a good point to notice is when I said diminishing returns, like all loud and like blurted it out, is like the law of diminishing returns. So in business, it's like if you keep putting money into something, hopefully one day it'll make you money at some point.
I don't think that's the law of diminishing returns.
Is it not?
Mm-mm.
Okay, what's diminishing returns?
I was going to let it slide the first time. I don't think that's the law of diminishing returns. The law of diminishing returns is when, let's say I have a cake and I eat a piece of cake. It's so good. And you eat another one.
Oh, then it's not as good.
Then you stop being like, all right, like you lost it.
What is the thing I'm talking about?
What you're talking about is a term, but I can't think of it right this moment.
Dang. Okay, well, y'all help me out.
There's a term for that, to where you feel like you've gone so far that you can't stop. You can't let it go.
Yeah, what
like,
is that?
Going.
I'm
it's
so
in one
mad
of the
at
books
it.
too, like whether it's the codependency book or one of the other ones. But
no,
they
but
talk
see,
about it.
like y'all called me out. Don't let me make it and out here looking crazy.
I mean, I was gonna let it ride.
You gotta
but
say
if you keep bringing it up, now it's like.
No, you got to say it. So there's a business term out there. So it's like you keep putting money in something. Eventually it's going to make you money. But at some point, like it's not. And you have to stop and, I was going to say stop and pull out. But you have to realize like what's best for you and always go back to the source. So if it's not nourishing your soul, if it's not helping you or in alignment with your dreams and goals, if it doesn't feel right, that's how you know. And you have to respect that.
Maybe. It's only how you know if you can trust yourself and know that you're aware and in the right space. Because there's a time when, people always say trust your instincts. Like, no, if I'm not in the right space where I'm being a people pleaser or whatever, right. Like your instincts aren't correct. So once you get to a point where you feel like you're aligned and you're in a good spot, now I feel like you can do that. And that's what makes it difficult, because our instincts are what's telling us like, nah, he's going to change, or something will come around, or nah, my instincts say like, maybe I should have stayed at this job because like I'm good here. So I think we have to be careful about that too.
So then how do you know?
What?
Like, so we both mentioned like there's just a certain point and you just know like when it's time to quit, when it's time to pivot, when it's time to something. For me, that looks like being in that space, like tuning into myself, being aware, like questioning, like, oh, well, why am I thinking this way? Kind of breaking down all my own thoughts and working through those. And then I know. But it's like, it's just a feeling. And I was trying to think about how to articulate that in a way that's practical.
Right into that though, one thing I like to always ask people, because I want to have this discussion before it's like, all right, so now this is when you quit, is how do you differentiate when it's a big enough reason to stop, so it kind of goes along with it, versus, oh, this is just a little something I need to get through, like a little obstacle or a stepping stone. Like we said at the beginning, like sometimes there is something you need to be doing more of, or the efforts, because it's not easy, of course, to do whatever it is. But then sometimes it's like, okay, so how do you know?
Whether it's time to push through or...
Yeah, how do you know if it's push through time or if it's quit time?
I think that both of those are kind of inherently tied together. Like what I was just saying, like it's like if it starts feeling like at the point where I felt like my work environment was toxic, like that was time. Like it was time. It wasn't just, oh, I don't like the hours or I don't like my commute. It was like, no, when it starts to harm me, I think when it starts to harm me, when it starts to like infringe upon like my goals and my purpose, if something is not in alignment, like why am I working so hard or pushing through something and fighting if it's not in alignment with my goals?
But what about if within what you do though, like what if I'm trying to start a YouTube channel to do my breathing exercises and meditation, all of that, right? Like, so that's in alignment. It's something you want to do, but maybe it's just you're not getting to it. It's really hard, or you're struggling with it. You can't, in air quotes, do it. Like, so is that, how will you know if it's like, you know what, forget it, I'm not going to do that?
Man, I'll be transparent. I was at this place with my business the other day.
She was like, I was finna quit yesterday.
Yeah, I actually started looking up jobs. And then I was like, it just did not.
Yeah, that happens like once every couple weeks. Like, I'm like, shoot, what's going on?
It did not feel right with my soul. Like, it just didn't feel right. And I'm like, okay, well, this doesn't feel right. Then clearly there's something else I need to do.
It didn't feel right, or you just didn't want to feel like a quitter?
No, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't sit right with my soul. Like, something is just not. And it's not even on no like, oh, I just don't want to work a 9 to 5 again. I mean, I can do that. I used to work 6 to 6. Like, it ain't no big deal. But it's like, it just doesn't feel right, like, with my energy, with my time. Like, I feel like God or the universe, whatever you want to call it, is like, there's more. Like keep going. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm here. What about for you? And so, like, I know that that's not really an answer. And that's to say that I don't have answers. I'm kind of in the middle of that, but it just goes back to me being in a very centered and grounded place within myself and knowing that it's not time to give up yet. It's still time to keep pushing.
I don't know, because even with my work, I don't know why I didn't quit a few times. And by quit, I mean just say like, all right, I'm going to for real look for another job. Because I'm always looking at jobs. Like, I'm always got my eye open. Like, it's whatever. But times when it's been like bad, like really rough on money or whatever, I never really put myself into it to like apply or to try to get another job. But now I'm like, should I have? Like, is that irresponsible to be like, well, I'm still want to just do my own thing, even though I have like $0 for like 2-3 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, is that irresponsible at that point? Like, should it be like, you know what? Now I need to take care of myself and like really go do something and quit this for a minute. Or maybe it's not quitting. Maybe it's sometimes you do need to put things on hold or like switch things up, refocus on different things. So I don't think that necessarily would have been bad as long as that's something that I could still work on or do. I just never felt like I'm already brain dead, like just doing my own stuff. So I'm like, I know if I went to somewhere else to do work, I'm not coming home and doing extra stuff. On the weekends, I'm like going to be trying to chill, whatever. And so I just never have really quit for that. But I think it's time to call it when, if you're just like miserable about it. So even like no matter what happens with my work or with my work life and trying to like run a thing, no matter what happens with it, I never feel bad for doing this. Like, I always feel fulfilled. Like, it's just a matter of like, okay, well, what do I need to do next? Or like, where do I need to focus? What should I be working on internally to get out of this situation or to make this not happen again type thing and not just stop? Because I love the fact that I can do that. I could, switch from what I'm doing to it being more of a creative studio. I could switch to this and this and this and this, however I kind of want to. So I'd rather just do that and still do my own thing than to just throw it all away.
So how do you know it's time to quit as opposed to a pivot?
Oh man, I'm the pivot master. Quitting is if I say I'm not doing this course anymore. Like I'm done. I'm not gonna try to do this. Pivoting is I see another opportunity for something. I'm gonna focus on this for right now because maybe that's a quicker way to increase my overhead, or that's gonna get me in the door with certain people that would help relationship-wise or some opportunity or whatever. Pivoting is when you say, you know what, this isn't it right now. This domino isn't in the right place. But if I put it back here and work on this instead, now it'll come back around. Like, it'll knock that thing down and make that easier. So sometimes it's just rearranging what you're working on. If you're like a person like me where I have like 500 different projects and things that I like and I'm working on actively to try to build them. But pivoting is, if it's too much, like maybe I don't have the overhead to do a particular thing the way I need to do it, or maybe I'm just being pulled too much into something else and I'm not being able to give it time, or whatever reason it is. Like, if something's not working, it's like, all right, I can just pivot. But if it's something really in my heart that I know I want to do, or if the end goal is something I care about, for example, pivoting can mean that I can attack that end goal a different way. or just being able to see, you know what, I don't have to do it this way, but it's still in my mind. And when I see the next opportunity or see something, like I'm still doing that thing. So it's not, I'm never cutting out in goals of what I want to create and do. It's just how I do it, or maybe the order, or, the means.
No, I love that. I think that's important. And I always have 100 things going on. So sometimes it's that, but like figuring out also, like sometimes you outgrow things and like outgrow positions or companies or roles. Like if you really love your company, maybe it's time to pivot to see if you can add a new skill and try something different, or do something like entrepreneurship, like do something within the company.
And sometimes you just don't care about something anymore. And I think it's okay to just be like, here I am, kind of over it. You just have to be careful, especially now in our era of like showing everything you're doing. I think it's important that if you have a bunch of projects going on, you don't want to be that person who's like, I'm starting this, and then you never start it, and then it's like, oh, I'm doing this, and then you never finish it, or you're always moving around, or it looks like you're doing the most, and people are like, well, what are you doing? Like, it just looks like you're starting a bunch of stuff and not focused. So I think that's something to be careful about, because maybe you're starting things because you like that thrill, and maybe not even it's conscious, but like you like that, oh, snap, that's dope, like you're working on this or you're doing that, and you just don't really, really care about like that thing. So I think that's time to look inward as well.
Most definitely. Do you have any other signs that it's time to quit?
Signs that it's time to quit. I think signs that it's time to quit. We said miserable, if it's not sitting right with you. I think it's time to quit. I need like specific stuff. It's time to quit stuff like when your health is not the best. Or if, see, we always wait till it's too late, or like wait till we're like all sick or something happens.
That's what I was about to say. Preventative care is so much cheaper.
So preventative care really is important. And I think it's hard to care about that, honestly. Like, it's hard to care about preventative care when your current present life is like, you're like really focused right now on like trying to make things happen or whatever, to go that extra mile for the stuff you need to be doing. But man, when you're knocked out of it or something happens, like, it's bad. So like, you really do need to be preventative. So you need to quit certain things when it comes to maybe your diet or your habits or whatever. If it's hurting the people around you, like if you have family or friends and maybe you're like just super irritable all the time, or, you're something like that, maybe if it's affecting you in that way or affecting the people around you, it may be time to quit or take a break at least. What else? I don't know, if you see no fruit, because you can be working on a thing, and if you love it, you're working on it, cool. But if it gets to a point where it's like there's nothing happening from this, I think it's okay to let it go and just do something else.
And that's not to say, like, sometimes fruit takes time. And so making sure, like, if it's something that's in alignment and that you feel good about, not to quit before you see it, like working out. You might not see them ab cuts the first day, but keep going.
Then you'll be me.
Exactly, right?
You know that meme picture where the guy at the top has his little picket thing or whatever, and he's like, the diamonds are behind it, and at the top, at the top, he's like still picking, and he's like a thin line of dirt, and then all these diamonds, and at the bottom, the same guy is like walking away, like, man, and he was that close too.
Yeah.
But I think that's like, it's trying to instill fear of missing out, and sometimes like, fuck it, like, I'm done, like, I'm tired, I'm not gonna do it. But you really got to weigh that situation out for yourself. Yeah. You know, if it's not healthy, you know, if it's not weighing in, you already know. Like, you just need to act on what you know and do what you want to do. Like, stop being afraid.
Yes, I love that. And it's, I'm like, I had something great to say, but it was not, because she said everything that she needed to. That was, that's real. You can't let fear rule things. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Okay, found it. It's like making sure, like, I am under the belief system that, like, what's mine is not going to miss me. Because I'm doing the work, I'm doing what I need to do and taking care of things so that I'm going to get everything that's mine. And so on those, like, I'm not going to miss that out. Like, if I quit that opportunity, it's not the last thing that's going to happen. It's something else back on the other side of that tunnel, if I was that little dude. But you have to make sure that you're tuned in with yourself and doing the work. Yeah,
for sure. So this week, let us know, like, you know, what was the best thing that happened when you quit something, quit a job, quit a habit. Or, you know, are you thinking about quitting something, or, you know, trying to weigh that out? Whatever it is, feel free to hit us. Let us know what's going on. This week, Carlie has a shout out.
I do have a Superman. That's actually, if you're watching the video, that's why I had to find my phone because I want to make sure I read it correctly and put some respect on Dr. View's name. So my homeboy is Stevie Johnson. He's doing his dissertation to get his doctorate in, like I said, I want to make sure I got it right. Doctoral candidate for educational leadership and policy studies at the University of Oklahoma. And his dissertation, he's a DJ too. And so he's Dr. View, but also DJ View. And his dissertation is called The Curriculum of the Mind, a Black crit narrative inquiry hip-hop album on anti-Blackness and freedom for Black male collegians at historically white institutions. And it's by the SPACE program, which includes Black male collegians that currently attend, graduated within the past 10 years, or dropped out within the past 10 years, stopped out actually, at a historically white institution in the state of Oklahoma, and also identify as artist, rapper, musician, producer, poet, activist, all of those things. And so the SPACE program came and made this album.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was the first album review I've ever been asked to write and got to write. And I was nervous, but it was amazing. And it drops on April 5th.
Oh, cool.
So y'all make sure y'all support my homeboy's dissertation.
And we'll have to put the links to the information on there because that was real long, what you said. But as far as like the title.
Yeah,
but,
it was, yeah.
But we'll put it down.
Curriculum
in there
of the Mind.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then our question of the week is,
who is my role model and why?
People always talk about role models and ask me like who my role model is. And I think that's a weird question. And I'm not even really answering it when I say this, but anytime like I've learned more about people that I looked up to, all you find out is that they're people and that nothing is different from them than you. Besides they just kept going or they were working on whatever or, they found their passion. Or you find out like they're super creeps or, or on the phone with little boys for 7 hours every day. And like, it's just weird. So when it comes to who my role model is, I've never been able to answer that question with like a person, like for real that I would say that's my role model. Not even my parents, like I just don't. If it was a different type of question or when people say something like, well, who do you admire in your field or something?
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. But I feel like role model is a strong word. And I struggle to even think of like a name that's close enough to where I'd be like, yeah, maybe minus a little whatever. Or I don't really know them, but this is one of my role models. I don't really have that like that.
Yeah, I don't either. That's why I've deflected the question to you.
I was like, maybe you can say like,
that's why I deflected straight to you. I would say that there's things that I admire about people, but I don't have a role model. Like we're all human, and like you said, everybody who I've ever like been like, man, they're just this and that. They're human, and not to detract from their value and how amazing they are, but we're all human. And yeah, there are things that I admire greatly about people and that inspire me. And that I learn from and look up to, but like it's not one person I'm like, oh, like you are like it. Like
but,
that's interesting.
Do you feel like it's okay to have a role model?
I think so. I mean, I think it's okay to do.
There's a difference between being a role model. Having a role model and like being like a Nicki Minaj fan account on Twitter where you're like searching for people talking about stuff and just to argue for them. Yeah, like that shit's
when
weird.
I hear a role model, I think about like probably like little kids or little boys like looking up to like basketball players or football players and
Michael
things.
Jordan, stuff like that. Yeah.
But then that's a whole other debate about the onus of being a role model put on to athletes and rappers and singers and things like that for things they didn't ask for. Like Cardi B always be like, I'm not a role model. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a role model. Like I said, there are things that I admire about people. And if you ask that, like I got a whole bunch.
Yeah. And for specific different things too. Because it's never just like a whole well-rounded, I don't know, maybe I would meet somebody like that. There's definitely people that I admire for sure. If you have a role model, let us know who that is. Because I'm just curious of what people would say. But I can't think about that. So today we talked about quitting. Thank you for joining the convo. Let us know your thoughts about the episode. Don't give up. Nah, give up if you need to, for real. If you feel like you need to stop. But you do it having the assurity that it feels right to you and with the knowledge that you are going in a different direction and doing something. My thing is just never just be just chilling and not doing anything. Like you don't just wait for stuff to get better. You don't wait for things to happen. But you need to actively be in movement. And kind of like what Carlie was saying, I think if you stay in movement, then what's for you is for you. So it doesn't mean, well, I'm going to quit and just sit on the couch. But If you're moving around and if you're in your zone of what you do, things work out. And things are so easy when they're for you. Like, I promise. It's so interesting how as soon as you give up trying to make this, force this to work, and you go this way, and it's just like door open, door open, door open. It's like, oh.
And it's so much better than what you thought you were trying to force to work.
That's what I should have been doing. And this feels good.
But yeah, so hashtag Carlie's Couch screenshot. Let us know you're listening. We'd love to hear from you. Like, when do you quit, or what have you quit, or what are tips, or any of those things? Anything else I want to
let Carlie know that she needs to put the pipe down. All right, guys.
Oh, my God. If
See you
come
next
missing,
week.
y'all know what happened. Bye.